How to overcome cash flow problems. Ben owned 3 businesses with 2 weeks from bankruptcy, and this one thing saved him. Overcoming cash flow starts with one thing: admit it, and then let's do these 7 things. By the end of this video, you're going to know the 8-move overcome system to end your cash flow frustrations. I had a contractor call me last year, and he suffers from what I call the I own this, this, and this disease. We talk to business owners all the time. They're like, oh yeah, I own 4 companies. And we're like, are you running any of them well? And most are not. There are some very gifted serial entrepreneurs that do that very well, but most of the people that we interact with in the small business space, they own a lot of different verticals because they see opportunity, but the reality is they're suffering usually from all of them. And so I had a contractor tell me, I own this, this, and this. And he started walking me through and he said, but we're in a cash crunch right now that I can't talk to my wife about. And the moment you start to hide some of these things is the moment that you need to wake up and realize that you're in a position that you need to get out of. It's not that you can't get out of, it's that you need to get out of, and we need to start putting things in place to overcome the isolation and to overcome the lack of vulnerability so you can begin to build pathways out of this cash flow crunch into a profitable position. Wouldn't that feel great? Not to have to wake up at 2:38 in the morning every morning, anxious, realizing I can't tell this person laying in bed next to me about all the problems that are going on. That's not vulnerability. That's not a place you want to be. So let's do something different to overcome that position. And by the way, in that example I just gave you, this guy's banker thought that he was growing because all the P&Ls and the balance sheets actually looked okay, but the reality is he was running out of cash really quickly. So instead, I want to overcome that. And the first step in overcoming that is owning the problem immediately. And to come out and just own it and say, you know what? I've kind of been living under a rock. I've stuck my head in the sand. I've not been paying attention to my money like I should be. I've let my CPA, my accountant, my bookkeeper, listen, it's not their responsibility to hold you fiscally sound. It is your responsibility as the owner. The buck stops with you to make sure that your money is in a position that fuels profitability and runs away from cash flow crunch at this time. So one of the first things I want to ask from you is, if you're in a tough spot right now, have you owned it to anybody? You can put comments below. You can send us direct message if you want to own it to us, even just to out it to us to let me know. I heard Scott on this video and I want to tell you I'm in a cash crunch and I don't know what to do. Just the ability to be able to own it, to get it out into the light, exposes it to where you can start to work on it. Now, once you've admitted that, then we can move into step number 2 of overcoming this, and that is viewing the problem every single week. And so let's come up here and put this weekly. Now, most of you, I realize it's counterproductive because you're thinking, I want to get away from this problem. I don't want to look at this problem. Well, the truth is, if we can keep this in front of us, then we can start to chip away on it. We can start to work away at it if we can start to look at it every week. One of the ways that we do that is by building a dashboard. Simple little dashboard. And on this dashboard, we can just track 3 things, your A, B, C's. You can track your bank accounts, and I will want you to subdivide your bank accounts. You can track your receivables and payables, that's your bookkeeping, the B version of ABCs, and you can track customer metrics. Who's coming? Who are the leads? Who are the sales that are coming? What does future receivables and payables look like? When we put this in a dashboard and start to look at that dashboard every week, we can begin to solve this problem that we have admitted. Now, if you look back at the A version of this, what we're going to do is we're going to establish subdivided bank accounts. Most business owners operate their entire business from 1, 2, or 3 bank accounts. And when all the money's in there, you don't know whose money that is. Your mind psychologically thinks it's all your money. And so when somebody asks you for we need to buy a computer or a van, you just look at the big lump sum bank account and go, okay, I think we have it. And we've never thought about budgets or anything like that. And the reality is what we need to do instead is we need to subdivide these bank accounts out into 7, 8, 9, 10 different bank accounts so that when money comes in, we immediately, by percentage, split that money up and put it into separate homes. So instead of money owning you, you begin to control the tool that's been put at your disposal. Because if you have cash, you have options. You have fuel in the gas tank. But if you have no cash, you have no fuel in the gas tank, and your car is parked on the side of the road, or it will be eventually. So we want to subdivide the bank accounts so we understand where that cash goes. So we establish this subdivided bank accounts, and that way we can start to look at it weekly on our dashboard for this problem that we've admitted. All right, so we got the dashboard, the accounts. Now what we want to do is remove all doubts about pricing. We want to stop guessing on pricing of our product. One of the biggest areas we see improvement on of clients that we work with is their pricing model is broken. In other words, They don't have one. They're just sort of guessing. They're putting a wet finger up to the wind and seeing which way the wind blows, and they're just putting a price on something and hoping it sells, rather than going through a pricing exercise to figure out, hey, what's our revenue? What's our cost of goods? What's our gross margin, and what are our expenses? And so we rage over our numbers to help inform our pricing so we give a better price. Does that mean that you have to stick to that price? No, you've got to take market considerations and all those things, but we're going to focus on pricing when we understand this, because pricing can help a lot of these other areas. Now, when we look back at bank accounts here, what we're going to do with the C part of overcoming is we're going to commit to cash. Does that mean we idolize cash? No. What I mean is we're going to commit to cash over accrual. I'm going to give you a metaphor that's helpful, because some people are like, what's the difference between cash accounting and accrual accounting? Well, I can tell you this, your CPA, your accountants, your bookkeepers, they're going to want to focus on accrual accounting. We actually call it accrual accounting. Why? Is because it doesn't give you actual numbers today. Is it necessary? Yes. It is necessary for rear view mirror looking upon your finances. And so let your CPAs, let your bookkeepers, let your accountants deal with accrual accounting for whatever purposes they need it for, whether it's dealing with taxes, whether it's dealing with amortization models, depreciation, whatever models they're looking at with their degrees and all that, let them deal with accrual accounting. But accrual accounting versus cash is kind of like this. The accrual accounting is like hosting a party and you have a 50-person RSVP list. You know, they've clicked on the buttons that they're coming. But then you show up to the party and only 8 people showed up. The 8 people that showed up, that's cash accounting. Those are the people that are actually there. They're actually in the building. You're actually serving them. Whereas the accrual accounting was the 50 people who clicked on the RSVP. I want to live my business life through who actually shows up and not what's promised either way. That's kind of a loose metaphor of the difference between cash and accrual accounting. And so I want you to commit. It doesn't mean you don't do accrual in your business. If your CPA or your accountant wants to do that, it's great. Just make them run cash P&Ls and give you cash positions on that. And if you subdivide your cash accounts, that will help you tremendously to be able to focus on a world of cash, because cash is present. That's your options in the business. Now, to drill down, what we can do is we can begin to take this idea of looking at your cash accounts, looking at your problems weekly, and we can start to organize it around a Slim Pants framework. I know you're probably sitting there wondering, what in the world is Slim Pants? Well, we want to run lean as a business. And so if you want a simple framework to understand if you're running lean as a business, then look at the Slim Pants. The first part, the slims, fit in our pants, right, is we're looking at our scheduling. Scheduling drives business. If your schedule's off, that means your revenue is going to be pushed downstream, and we don't want to do that. So pay attention to your schedule, pay attention to your labor cost, your inventory, and your mistakes, callbacks, and warranties. Too many people do not have a budget line item of 1% or 3% for mistakes, callbacks, line items, warranties, that sort of thing. And then the second part to fit in our Slim Pants is we're looking at pricing, what we talked about here, removing doubts about pricing, accounts receivable and payable, new equipment, taxes, and servicing debt. And so if you can take these on a simple agenda item in a weekly meeting where you're reviewing your problem weekly, looking at your cash accounts, looking at your P&Ls on a cash basis, so you can look at these 9 elements: scheduling, labor, inventory, mistakes. Then you go down here to pricing, accounts receivable, accounts payable, new equipment, taxes, and then servicing your debt. If you can stay on top of that, boy, you're going to be in great shape for managing your cash flow. 2 more elements to overcome. One is to manage your timeline for AR and AP. What do I mean by that? Whatever your terms are, stick to your terms. Communicate your terms. Let people know your terms. Follow up with the terms. Set reminders on those terms. When you send an invoice out, that invoice is gold, because that invoice is fuel for the tank of your business. Not because you're idolizing the gasoline, but you need the gasoline to fuel the mission that you're going after. You have an important mission. We need your work to be able to do that, but you got to have cash to have fuel in the tank to be able to do that. And the final element of overcoming cash flow problems is to take what we talked about of viewing the problem every week, and then what you want to do is establish an actual weekly meeting. And so in this weekly meeting, you're going to pull up your dashboards and look at your cash accounts. You're going to look at your accounts receivable and accounts payable that we've got right here. You're going to look at your Slim Pants metrics. So every single week you're doing that in 30 minutes or an hour. And when you do that, when you start to lean into this, you're going to have a clarity around your business that you've never had before. And I promise it's going to help restore energy and a youthfulness around the mission that you're looking for. I had a builder tell me one time, we had our biggest revenue year, $17 million that year. He said, I worked 70 hours a week and still we only generated $150,000 in net income. That's not an option. If you're going to do that much work, We've got to close the cash flow door, the trap, that drain at the bottom of the bathtub, and start filling it up. And you can overcome it with this methodology to be able to do that. But I want to give you a tool that's going to help you, because I know this can be a little bit overwhelming. If you'll go down in the description link below, we've got a link. It's called solvecashflow.com. And we've built a tool for you there. It's a great cash flow handbook for you and your team to walk through to start mapping out a lot of the overcome methodology that I talked about here so that you can be liberated from cash flow chaos. So go to solvecashflow.com and let us help you be liberated from this chaos so you can make time for the things that matter most.